Good evening, everyone. I'll open the Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 North Liberty City Council. Tracy, how about a roll call?
Courtney?
Here.
Leibel?
Here.
Park? Smith?
Here.
Wason?
Here. Thank you. Item 3 is approval of the agenda. There are no changes. Could I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved, Mayor.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Wason. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is approved. Item 4 is our consent agenda. It looks long and arduous, but it's just routine. That said, are there any questions about it? Seeing none, could I have a motion for approval, please?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Smith. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Thank you. Item 5 is public comment. This is a time for anyone in the audience to address council on anything on their minds, unless it's already on our agenda for public comment. Everybody's got their territory staked out for later on in the agenda. I'll move on to item 6 then. Josiah, this is our engineer's report.
Thank you, Mayor. All right. Thought I'd update you guys on a couple projects in design, starting with North Stewart Street improvements. Our survey work of the site is pretty much done, and the preliminary layout work is underway. We have a schematic design phase due later this month to the city staff for review. And just so as a background on this project, we're completely reconstructing this road, so we're focusing on how to find the best alignment for the new roadway, the layout of the new sidewalks, crosswalks, where the new public utilities are going to go within the street, and then also starting to look at if we need locations for easements or acquisitions to make the project buildable. That's kind of all in this first phase. So that's going on there. And a reminder, that's planned for bidding this coming winter. We have the Cherry Street Firehouse, the schematic design piece. That first design piece was submitted at the end of May. We'll have a city staff review meeting this month to go through that. And the design team's already rolled into the next phase of developing that design. We've also had the construction manager at risk process paralleling the layout and design for the firehouse. We had a request for qualifications, an RFQ that went out, and we got 9 responses last week from contractors that are interested. So that was a good response. City staff's reviewing those, and we'll score those, and we'll select the top contractors who respond to that RFQ and invite them onto the next stage. The other piece of that job is the parks and water maintenance building additions. That's also in pre-design. That's going to wrap up soon. That's meeting with all the departments, department heads, making sure we have everything planned for, the spaces set for who needs what and where. So that is in progress. 2 jobs in construction phase I wanted to update you guys on. First and foremost, Forever Green Road and Jasper Avenue. The roundabout and the roadway improvements. The first traffic shift is planned for tonight. I wasn't out there before the meeting, but the temporary road paving has been completed. They're putting up temporary signs and markings. As a reminder, the intersection will still function as a 3-way stop the way it does today. So no changes. Everybody's still slow. Access to Quick Star will remain open. Access back and forth to Tiffin will remain open. But this will allow the first quarter of the roundabout to get underway once that traffic is moved. And then last one for you is the community center parking lot, the first phase of that work. The contractor is on site. They're working through the east phase, which is the east side of the community center. There's a access drive back there and a trail connection. And we expect to see both of those paved, the new drive and the trail, probably in the next week. And then after that, they will move up to where the community center driveway connects to Community Drive. So up by the Rancho House, that'll be the next phase of that. So that will probably be next 7 to 10 days, we expect. So good progress there, Mayor. That's all I have, aside from questions.
Thanks, Josiah. Are there any questions? All right. Ryan, I'll move on to City Administrator report.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Just one thing from me tonight, and it's a topic that has garnered a lot of attention here in the last couple of weeks, and one that our folks at City Hall have been taking many calls on, and that is garbage. We understand folks are frustrated. Many folks are, anyway, frustrated. We're hearing from those people about service issues, service interruptions. We're frustrated as well, and I just want to assure the community we're continuing to have dialogue with LRS every day to I guess, ensure or to demand better service. And I know they've had some staffing issues as of late as well, but that's frankly not an excuse that's acceptable. So I just want to assure this group and the community that we're continuing to push on them. And if you do find yourself in a situation where your garbage or recycling has been missed, be sure to let us know, or you can call the LRS number. They have an email also that you can find on our website. But if you're not getting the resolution you need, please let us know.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions for Ryan? Ryan? Laura? I'll move on to my report. I'll just two things real quick before I get into the proclamations. I wanted to thank Brian for covering for me for the month of May for work-related meetings that I needed to attend. So I appreciate you taking the helm there, and for all of you as well while I was gone. I do want to, if anyone in the public hasn't had a chance yet, they oftentimes don't until we highlight these things. Getting into our packet, there's a report every month from our department heads, and this month I'd like to highlight the library's report. There's a couple of things in there that kind of stuck out with me. I won't get into it too much, but our library staff and someone commented, maybe it was Jenny, about how they are a bridge to our community. And there's a couple of really excellent highlights of that. One of them is our teen circulation and how much that has been really popular with kids in the community. And the work Andrew is doing there is on point to help keep those teens interested in coming back to the library. And then on the other end of the spectrum, we've got a 55 plus connection that Corey at the library she's really built into a dynamic, not just a meeting, but something that the community really is bridged by those activities. So we think that libraries are checking out books, and but as we all know, there's a lot going on over there. So I would encourage the public to check out that library report. That's at the end of our packet. Otherwise, I'll move on to two proclamations that I have tonight. The first of which is the Juneteenth National Freedom Day proclamation. Whereas Juneteenth is observed each year on June 19th to commemorate the day in 1865 when enslaved African Americans in Galveston, Texas, learned of their freedom more than 2 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was issued. And whereas Juneteenth serves as a reminder of the long and arduous journey toward freedom and equality for all Americans, and underscores the resilience, strength, and perseverance of the African American community. And whereas this observance provides an opportunity for residents of North Liberty to come together, learn from one another, and deepen appreciation for the experiences that shape our community. And whereas the observance of Juneteenth encourages dialogue, education, and understanding of our nation's complex history and the enduring legacy of slavery, and inspires efforts to promote diversity, inclusion, and unity in our communities. And whereas Juneteenth provides an opportunity for all Americans to honor the contributions and achievements of African Americans throughout history, celebrate African American culture and art, and to recognize the ongoing struggle for racial justice and equality in our society. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Chris Hoffman, Mayor of North Liberty, do hereby recognize June 19th, 2026, as Juneteenth National Freedom Day in the city of North Liberty, and would encourage community members to recognize this day through reflection, learning, and participation in community activities. Anyone wishing to speak on that or receive that? Alicia, I know that you're here for the next one. Okay. Our second proclamation is for Pride Month. And whereas Pride Month is celebrated each June to honor the resilience, courage, and contributions of the LGBTQIA+ community, commemorating the Stonewall Uprising of 1969 and the ongoing pursuit of justice and equality for all. And whereas LGBTQIA+ individuals have historically faced and continue to face systemic discrimination, social stigmatization, and erasure in public, private, and institutional spaces, resulting in disparities in health, education, housing, employment, and safety. And whereas professional research, including studies by the Human Rights Campaign and the Williams Institute at UCLA School of Law, underscores the disproportionate impact of these inequalities on LGBTQIA+ communities, particularly those who are Black, Indigenous, people of color, BIPOC, transgender, non-binary, and disabled. And whereas the City of North Liberty, Iowa recognizes that advancing diversity, equity, and inclusion is essential to building a community where all people are valued, respected, and able to live authentically. And whereas LGBTQIA+ individuals continue to face discrimination, social stigmatization, and barriers that impact their safety, health, and well-being. And whereas our community is strengthened by its commitment to welcoming all people, uplifting diverse voices, and creating spaces where everyone can belong and thrive. Whereas the City of North Liberty upholds a mission rooted in collaboration and connection to honor diversity, advocate for neighbors, amplify voices, recognize our shared humanity, and cultivate a culture of kindness. And whereas Pride is both a celebration of identity and a call to care for one another, stand together against injustice, and build a more inclusive future together. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Chris Hoffman, Mayor of the City of North Liberty, Iowa, do hereby proclaim the month of June 2026 as Pride Month in the City of North Liberty, Iowa. I encourage all residents, businesses, schools, and organizations in North Liberty to join us in honoring the history, struggles, and triumphs of the LGBTQIA community and recommit to fostering a culture of kindness, inclusion, and belonging throughout the city.
Hello, my name is Alicia, and I represent the group Anti-Racism and Social Justice in North Liberty. And I just wanted to quickly say thank you very much for proclaiming both of those and for continuing to endeavor to make North Liberty very welcoming and inclusive.
Thanks. Do you want to take a photo, Alicia?
Sure.
Right here.
Well, I'm wondering if Abby's going to.
Excuse me.
That's all I have for my report. I'll move on to item 9, which is council reports. And I created this agenda item for our council members to let the public know ways in which they are involved in our community, not just here at city council meetings tonight. So in no particular order, if you have anything to let us know about that you've been doing on behalf of the city, I would welcome those comments.
Okay, I guess I'll start. First of all, we went to the MPO meeting after the last council meeting and working on some of the budget things for transit, and a lot of it had to do with vehicles and stuff, and getting ready for having the reports that we have to the federal government to make sure we get the funding that we deserve. The Emergency Management Agency's building continues to go up just past where the roundabout is going. And we did get the weather service reports from them today. As you know, it is hot today. It is going to be hotter tomorrow. In the next 2 days, a pretty good chance of storms. So please pay attention to the news on that. And then we were able to help with the symphony at the Centennial Center. And just like the first concert, the sound was really excellent. That was pretty well attended. And people, I think, really had a good time. Definitely a different crowd, but everybody had a good time.
Thanks for volunteering to do that. And before I move on, we did get a report from the MPO that I need to get out to Ryan, highlighting the projects over the next 5 years that will be getting funding from the federal government that streams through the MPO to us. So I was remiss in getting that out to us before this meeting.
Mayor, for the first time in a while, I have nothing to report. I was busy graduating a senior, so congratulations to all the graduates. I would say a thank you to the city of Coralville for hosting us at the Extreme Arena. It was great for our purposes and graduation, so thanks to the city for welcoming our graduates.
Congrats.
Thank you, Mayor. For me, I also was busy graduating a senior. I did have the opportunity to attend Coffee Connections last Friday, though. So I just wanted to say thank you to the Greater Iowa City folks for facilitating that, Colony Acres for hosting, and I think importantly about this, the community members that are able to join and attend those Coffee Connections or Lunch Connections that Greater Iowa City puts on. It's another way to extend, to your earlier comment, extend that community. So it's really good with that. I will mention the volunteer opportunities that continue to remain with all of the events going on for the city slate at the Centennial Center. So if you have an interest in volunteering, giving back to the community, please check out the website for that. And then given that our next meeting is the 23rd, I'll take this opportunity to say Happy Father's Day to all the fathers in our community. So that's it for me, Mayor.
Thanks, Brian.
Mayor, I attended the Orchestra Iowa concert, and it was a lot of fun. Very well attended, I thought. It sounded amazing. And I'm going to keep volunteering to these things because I really enjoy meeting the people and being out with everybody. I did want to kind of butt up on what Mayor had mentioned earlier with regards to the library, and I was going to, with summer here and idle time for families and children, to take a look at the calendar for the rec center and the classes, the programs, the things that you can get involved in. They have lots of stuff that they do there, more than anybody thinks, and I really encourage people to take a look at that. And I can't remember what else I was going to say.
All right. It's all right. Thank you. Thank you all for what you're doing outside of these meetings. Ryan, we'll move on to item 10, which is the 2026 bond sale. And item A is resolution number 2026-61. This is a resolution authorizing and approving a certain loan agreement providing for the sale and issuance of general obligation corporate purpose bond series 2026 and providing for the levy of taxes to pay the same. You want to introduce who's with us on the line?
We have with us, I think most of you recognize, Tiana Pooler. She's here virtually this evening, and we'll take it from here. Go ahead, Tiana.
Hi, I hope you can all hear me well. It's a pleasure to join you even virtually, but I did just want to give some feedback on the sale we had today. We sold about $5 million in general obligation corporate purpose bonds. Those were sold for the purposes of funding some improvements in Centennial Park, Forever Green Road, Jasper Park, and sidewalks, some parking, parking lot. And we received a AA3 rating. That's the same rating that you have been enjoying. Moody's commented on your strong local economy, solid population, and full value per capita growth, strong fund balances. Commented also on your flexibility in revenue in revenue raising despite legislative changes because of the flexibility that you have remaining in the franchise fee and in your local option sales tax. So a stable report there, nothing surprising in that response from them, but we also did receive 6 bids. These bonds go out about 10 years. The lowest bid was from BOK Financial Services out of Dallas. The TIC was a 3.17. We had been estimating about a 3.30, and the difference between the actual and the estimate has yielded you an additional $365,000 of proceeds that are spendable on projects that have been authorized. I don't know if you guys would have any questions about that, but it's, the bonds are always well received in the market due to your good rating. These were actually bank qualified. It's typical for us to have a handful of bidders, and we did again. So nothing out of the ordinary to comment on, but just to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing. And Moody's is recognizing it, and the market's recognizing it. And I think that this was a successful sale, and I would recommend that you award the bid or the bonds to BOK Financial.
Thank you, Tiana.
Sure.
Glad you could join us virtually tonight and save the long drive up here. Do any of you have any questions for Tiana? All right, thank you. I know that we'll be coming back to you here in just a few minutes, so enjoy the rest.
Thank you.
Tracy, could I get a motion for consideration of this resolution, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Fortney, seconded by Smith. You guys have any questions? Comments? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Fortney,
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item 11 is a water utility rate increase, and item A is public hearing regarding proposed water utility rate increase. Is there anyone in the audience wishing to provide comments on our water rate increase? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing and move on to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2026-08. This is an ordinance amending chapter 92.02 entitled Rates for Service of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 92.02 to increase the charges for water used. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Leibold. You guys have any questions?
Mayor, I'd just ask Ryan to kind of go back in time and just remind over the last 3 years kind of what our approach has been and what the rate increases have been.
Sure. Well, as you all know, and coincidentally, we'll be talking about some of these water projects later this evening. But the city has, and the city council has approved a facility plan in 2025, and that plan, a water and wastewater plan, actually, that plan helps provide framework for the necessary improvements needed to keep up with our growth. What you're seeing tonight is a 5% rate increase in water and a proposed 5% increase in water, 6% in sewer. And really, these increases will help us be able to pay for the upcoming projects. And to give, you folks know this, but for the benefit of the community, as an example, the water improvements over the next 4 or 5 years are going to cost approximately $18 million. The wastewater is a big one, and we're looking at a $55 million expense there to keep that facility, within regulation and having the capacity to serve the community. So, Councilor Smith, to your question, over the last few years, last year we did start a rate increase, but before that we went, I think, 5 and 6 years respectively in each utility without any increases. But continuing to monitor these funds, we look at these funds regularly to make sure expenses and revenues are, well, you see the reports monthly. We take much deeper dives into those on a routine basis. And in fact, I asked Tiana to stick around in case folks wanted to visit with her about this, because she also is very much involved as we put these models together, look at what the debt amortization schedules are. And as I tried to highlight in my memo, it's not just about the amortization schedule. We're looking at, in each of these utilities, number of accounts, consumption of gallons, of course, trying to predict expenses and revenues over the course of the next 20 years in this case, and that can be very complicated. And then lastly, in very importantly, is we also have debt service coverage that we have to maintain in order to qualify for the SRF loan, which is how we'll pay for these projects. And I won't go into detail on that. That's in your packet if you want more on that. But it's my point in this explanation is there's a lot that goes into this, and we've tried to look at it from every angle to provide you the most reasonable increase possible, and that's what you're seeing tonight.
And Mayor, I would just say, back a few years ago, first coming on council, that was a topic that I heard the most from the community was rate increases for water. Greg and his team have done a phenomenal job in curbing those, doing what they can, doing more with the same, with no rate increases over the last few years. Greg, we really appreciate the work. I know that's made it more difficult at times, but they're, they've worked extremely hard, and now seeing the need for the growth, being able to keep up with the growth, I just want folks to understand and see that history that we have had many years without rate increases, and now it's time for our growing community to work towards expansion. So thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? I'll just comment two things that, for those in the audience, a water and wastewater funding, these are enterprise funds, these are projects, these are parts of our city that are not getting funding from general obligation funds. They only get funding through the rates and the water that's sold or the water that is treated. So these funds act a little bit differently than any other city fund that we have on there. And Ryan, for the community's benefit, could you just say what an SRF, what the SRF is and how that's helpful in this case?
Sure. Good point. Sometimes we use acronyms like everyone knows what they mean. That's the State Revolving Fund. It's a loan fund specifically for water, wastewater, and stormwater projects. And North Liberty's been using this fund for many, many years, and it provides a reduced interest rate. I think their current rate's 2 3/4, perhaps, so somewhere in there, and without having to go through a sale process. So it's a great program and one that most communities will use. The one caveat with that is what I mentioned earlier is you have to have debt service coverage of 110%, and so that factors into our rate calculations as well.
Thank you. All right. Could I have a motion for consideration of?
Mayor, there is a motion on
I'm
the
sorry, I
table.
got it on here. I missed that. Could I have a roll call, please?
Fortney,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 12 is our sewer utility rate increase, and this is, I'll open a public hearing regarding the proposed sewer utility rate increases. Anyone wishing to comment on this? Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing and move on to item B, which is first consideration of ordinance number 2026-09. This is an ordinance amending chapter 99.02 entitled Rate of the Municipal Code of North Liberty by adopting a new section 99.02 to increase the charges for sanitary services. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Fortney. Any questions on that? I won't make you repeat that. Tiana, how'd Ryan do with his explanation of things since you stuck around here for us?
I think it was perfect.
Awesome. Anything that you'd like to add?
No, I think, well, only that we do this regularly, and we'll look for opportunities to kind of moderate rates as we can as we get closer to those projects. But, as Ryan mentioned, we do have coverage considerations that we need to consider, cash considerations. And so we will monitor those regularly to make sure that as we approach that project, that you're in a good fiscal position to be able to not have to raise rates extraordinarily all of the sudden. And so I appreciate the city's being proactive in that and managing that. I've seen much worse in other places. So consider yourselves fortunate to have such good planning, and I'll continue to help as much as I can to make sure that we keep doing more of the same and being moderate in our increases and expectations.
Awesome. Thank you. Tracy, could I have a roll call then, please?
Smith,
Aye.
Fortney,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. I'll move on to item 13, which is the water supply and treatment improvements, divisions 2 and 3. And we're going to start with staff presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. I will start, and then I'm going to ask John Gady, who is with us virtually, to make a few comments, and I believe he has some slides. And with any luck, we'll be able to have the slides in front of you and on these two screens. John is with Strand and Associates. They're our engineering firm on this project. And then I've asked Grant to just just remind folks what these resolutions are intended for this evening. So just to get us started here, and we've already talked about the facility plans and the fact that North Liberty is very unique for a city in Iowa in that we are growing. Many cities don't have to worry about facility plans because their growth is stale and they just have to maintain, what they have. In the last 20 years, we've, I think, approved 3 different facility plans, and each plan acknowledges that future improvements are necessary if we want to keep up with the growth of the community. So in this case, the project that we're talking about, the improvement project, includes the addition of wells, transmission lines, and increasing the capacity at the water plant. So that's why you're seeing this specific area. We're talking about divisions 2 through 3. Later, we have a bid opening or a bid project for division 1. So divisions 1 through 4 are what I referred to earlier as the $18 million over the next few years. So John's going to get into some of the details on why wells need to be located in certain areas, and I believe, has a map to show you. But in general, the city gets its water from 2 different aquifers, the Jordan Aquifer and the Silurian Aquifer. And most of our water right now comes from the Jordan Aquifer, although the state has now put significant limitations on how much water cities or other organizations can get from that Jordan, simply because they're concerned about the long-term sustainability of that aquifer. So those of us who rely on aquifer water are going to be looking at the Silurian aquifer. And again, I know some of you up here, and probably all of you up here know this, but I think it bears repeating. Jordan aquifer, we can get, and Greg, you can correct me at some point if I'm totally off here, but anywhere from 1,500 to upwards, on a good day, 2,000 gallons of water per minute. With a Silurian, we're hoping to get anywhere from 300 to 500 gallons a minute with a good Silurian. We have Silurian aquifers right now that are only producing 40 to 50 gallons a minute. And those are not very efficient, and frankly, someday they'll go away. But right now, we need them as to sustain and to provide water to our community. So as we look to locate and site these wells, we want to make sure that where we do it is productive. We don't want to invest, $1 million or $1.5 million to install a well only to get 50 gallons a minute. So what John is going to talk about, I believe, and here in a minute, is a study that was done in 2016 that talked about where the aquifer is strong, the Silurian aquifer is strong, and why, and that will help you better understand why we're suggesting this location for the Silurian, one of the Silurian wells. So I think with that, I just want to check my notes and make sure I have everything, I've mentioned everything here, and then I think I will turn it over to John. Looks like he's got his presentation up. Tim, I don't know if you can, there we go, thank you. Take it away, John.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Mayor and Council. Can you guys hear me okay?
Hear you great,
Very
John.
good.
Thank you.
All right. So again, I'm one of the project managers with Strand, and we've been helping the city for years with your helping you find water and building your water treatment plant. And so this figure is representing where your water treatment plant is, and you can see the wells that we have around the proximity of the treatment plant. And Ryan mentioned that well number 3 and well number 4 that's hooked to the Silurian aquifer, we're not hardly getting any water from those anymore, less than 50 gallons per minute. So as your town continues to grow, we have this continued demand to provide water to these folks.
John,
So
sorry, John, could you do one of the two things? Could you make that map a little bit bigger for us to see them on our screens? Maybe just one at a time. Yeah, thank you. There we go. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks. I appreciate that. So again, this is well 3 and this is well 4, the water treatment plant. So these are where your wells are now. And this is well number 7. It's an aquifer storage reservoir. We actually store our water there, but we're converting that. That's a Jordan well. And as part of this project, we're going to convert that and make it into a raw water system where we pump it back up to the treatment plant and treat it there to help us provide us more water capacity. So in 2017, we completed a study and tried to determine how to provide more wells for the city. And there's a lot of factors we had to put into that. And we hired some specialists to analyze that. And really what came of that study is that we wanted to grow our well fields to the north and northwest. And we based this on with your population projections and your historical water usage for over the next 10 years. So this plan, is going to implement it over a 10-year period. And the first part of that is to locate 2 new wells. We're calling them wells number 10 and 11. And then this is showing wells 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16 in the northwest quadrant here outside of your city limits. And from each one of those wells, we have to extend a raw water line, and we got to bring it all the way back to the water treatment plant. When we look at how to space these wells, we need to space them apart from each other so they don't interfere with the capacity that we can draw from each one of those. And we also have to take in consideration all the existing wells or some private wells that are located out in this area. So they had to be spaced accordingly for that. Well number 10 is located right off of Kansas where your existing water tower is located. So this will be a Silurian well, and hopefully, like Ryan said, we'll be getting up to 300 gallons per minute out of this well number 10. The next well is located just to the north of Deerfield Park, right off of Antler Drive. This is well number 11. This would require us to acquire a property adjacent to the parkland there. We've got to meet certain spacing requirements for the DNR requirements. We want to control like 200 feet around this wellhead. That's a code requirement. So folks aren't applying chemicals or doing land applications on the property, and we can control that. We attempted to put this well as close as we could to our property. Then, as you can see, we had to extend, or planning to extend Antler Drive so we can have a driveway for us to access our proposed well site. Also, as part of this project, because we talked about the wells, I'll start again up here by Deerfield. I wanted to go over just quickly the alignment that we had to extend a raw water line from each one of these well sites. So again, this is Deerfield, Deerfield Park. This blue line represents a 6-inch raw water line that we would extend around this location in the agricultural properties. And then we would extend it down Alexander Way all the way to West Penn. And from West Penn, we would extend it south to this junction location here. And then we have well number 10 over here, which is the tower site, and proposing to extend it down our public right-of-way here through agricultural property, east in this direction, around the church property up to Jones Boulevard, and then extending it to Zeller. And at Zeller, that's where we have our existing Jordan well, well number 9, and we also have well number 8 here, another Silurian well here, and we already have our 12-inch raw water line that goes to the plant. So the key is to get all that infrastructure to this location right here to get to the water treatment plant so this water can be treated for your community. That's a brief summary, a project overview of why we need these wells and the infrastructure associated with that. We anticipate that all of this work will be completed by the end of 2028. And as Ryan mentioned, it's just over $18 million to do this work.
Okay, and I'll just want to speak a little bit about the resolution you have in front of you, folks. So after our staff presentation, there'll be time for a public hearing, and I know that we have several of the landowners here that are going to want to speak, and I've spoken with all of them before this. The resolution that you have here coming up is necessary in order for, because all the land you see there that Mr. Gady has highlighted is agricultural land. It's at least 10 acres, and it's been in agricultural use for 2 out of the last 5 years. It's considered agricultural land, and we have to follow special procedures in order to put the eminent domain tool in our toolbox. That doesn't mean we have to use eminent domain, but in order to make that available to the city to use as a tool, we have to have send out notices and publish notices in the paper, and we have a public hearing tonight. All of this meeting for that is to make sure that we're checking all of those requirements to make sure that everyone who is affected by this directly has an opportunity to come here and listen to us talk about it and then share their opinion about it. And then the council can make a decision on whether or not to authorize the acquisition of the land necessary by eminent domain if it is necessary to do so. And I'll leave it at that for right now. I'll be happy to talk more as we go further along, and I can answer questions you might have as well.
Just to clarify for tonight, though, Grant, we're creating and authorizing a tool that might be used at some point in time in the future, and we're not doing anything beyond that this evening.
That's correct. If in order to do this, this will allow us to finish up some appraisal work that's already probably gotten started in anticipation of being able to do this. So we have an idea of what a fair market value is to offer people for the property interests that are necessary, and to start a dialogue. There are a slew of statutory protections and requirements in place. So from the decision to maybe go forward with acquiring property to ultimately maybe having a hearing on that through the county can be 6 months long. There is a need here for this project. The DNR requires us to have all of the property in hand, all the easements that we might need, all the land for the well, before they can move forward with the considering of whether this is a good project to allow us to go forward with. So we have to have everything in hand first. And so that's why we've started this process earlier than we might otherwise. So normally we might have months and months of casual conversations with property owners, but time is of the essence here in order to be able to preserve a potential bid date and letting date of next year. And so that's why we're a little more quicker on this particular draw than we have been in years past.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for staff?
I had a question, just a little bit on that. So what John presented was what we suspect would be the best plan to go forward.
Yeah, so Strand has identified, they've looked at all the possible permutations, and this is the plan that the engineer we've hired recommends us to use. I often joke that I got a liberal arts degree, right? So what the hell do I know about? But this is that path at these locations for the reasons that Ryan mentioned, for the reasons that John mentioned, are the recommended site. And then the resolution in front of you says, we're calling this the preliminary site for this, so let's go ahead and get appraisals on it and so on, and get the ball rolling. Let us be able to have conversations. I can't negotiate with folks until this gets authorized, because this is ag land. I'm not authorized to do that.
And so this resolution, it doesn't have us digging ground. It just has us surveying and making sure that this is how to acquire this land.
Right, and I don't. So there's a whole big paragraph-long blurb of all the stuff that this does, but ultimately it says, yes, you will be able to use. We authorize that the use of eminent domain if necessary. Then the next step is an appraisal, and once each of these property interests are appraised and there's a value, I come back to the council and say, here's what the appraiser says. It says this property is $500 million an acre, and this one is $600 million an acre. I am just kidding. But the idea, and then the council will say that number is completely reasonable, and so we're going to establish a resolution establishing what we think is a fair market value, and then we're off to the races. Then I can turn out and offer at least that much to each of the property owners, and that begins this whole state law mandated negotiation process, and 95 times out of 100, the people we're dealing with are North Liberty residents. They're our neighbors. These are reasonable folks, and we can almost always come to some arrangement that is mutually agreeable. I don't know if everyone's super happy, but we can agree. If ultimately that we can't find any agreement, for me to come back and say, hey, sign off on this, council. We made a deal. Didn't we do a good job? Then I can file paperwork with the district court saying, hey, we couldn't make a deal, and these are the projects. This is what we need. At that point, then the district court appoints compensation commissioners. They hold a hearing. They come out and look at everything, and they come up with a number if we can't agree with one between ourselves. At that point, I still come back to the council and say, this is the number that the compensation commission said. And you can say, nah, it's too much. We'll figure out something else. Or we think that's fair. But there are at least 3 more visits here, and at least 1 per property, right? Maybe everyone gets, we all fall into agreement next week, but likely the people, these are also very sophisticated folks. This Dustdyker Garden Farms owns a significant amount of land north of town. Mr. Harold Cameron owns a significant amount of land in town, and they know what their land's worth, and they want to make sure that they're treated fairly. They have attorneys representing them to make sure their interests are protected. So there's a process that goes forward with that. And this is part of that. I realize that I've been hearing myself speak for a very long time now, and I'm going to stop now.
Any other questions?
So Grant, so if you had to do eminent domain, does the council have to authorize that specific?
This resolution will authorize us to go forward with that if we can't make any sort of agreements, if I don't have anything else to come with. But it doesn't authorize the actual taking until we come back and write a check for it. So this will get that ball potentially rolling all the way up to including having a hearing with the Compensation Commission. But you can still walk away at that point. You don't have to seal that deal until this body determines that they want to write a check to purchase it for whatever the number was that the Compensation Commission came up with. Is that responsive?
So there'll be several meetings where we can decide that maybe we want to not.
At least 2 for every property. One where we establish the fair market value for every property. That's necessary. And assuming and then either that we've made a deal or that we haven't made a deal, and that we needed to go through the Compensation Commission, and so at least 2 for every property, maybe 1 extra.
Okay.
How many pieces of property, how many owners are we talking?
I mean, there's 18 pages in your packet. The property owners are the Dustecker Garden Farms Limited Partnership, which is Dr. Niall and Dr. Lois Dustecker here in the audience with us. We're going through MAJ1 properties. That's Mr. Jardine. That's along Alexander Way. We are going to go under the Whirlpool driveway, but we are going to stay within the right-of-way. And so we're going to just kind of go right under their driveway, and we won't need anything from them. We're going to stay on city property for that because it's only 25 feet wide there or so. As it extends further south, thank you, John, for driving. We'll bore under Penn Street. The blue line there, all the way down there is Mr. Hill Cameron's property. And for the northern parcel there along the driveway, east and west from West Park Street, is that I think it's Pence, and then to the east, the easternmost parcel there belongs to Mr. Corey Hodap of CJ's Construction Company, and so he's not here tonight. The other property, and Jardine is not here tonight, but the other property owners are. And I have an inkling they'll want to speak in a minute.
Brent, how you doing there? Anything stewing?
Good. I understand the right-of-way issues, mainly on the Cameron property, being line that can be cropped over time. The main parcel, is it 3 acres to the north of the park? Is that what the acreage?
The permanent fee acquisition is right at 2 something acres. Under 3, more than 2.5, less than 3.
Yeah, and that's the minimum requirement, John, for us to control for chemical issues, correct? That's the minimal square that we can get away with.
It would be a circle, but it's really hard to draw a circle.
Sure.
Right.
Okay.
And depending on, I don't want to, yes, I'll just leave it at that.
So the thing I struggled with here was timing. So if we have put ourselves in a position where timing is of the essence, and the eminent domain hammer needs to be approved earlier in the process than maybe we have in the past, that's if I am a property owner, I would appreciate the communication up front, which we have done. I would appreciate the ability to negotiate, to come to an agreement. Then if the agreement is not there, looking towards, if this council deems necessary for eminent domain, putting in eminent domain up forward this early in the process is just what I'm looking for that clarification for. And it's timing, but timing for and why, I guess.
Sure. So we were informed by Strand of the DNR's requirement to have all the easements in hand before they could move forward with it. We were informed of that, I think, in March, late March.
Okay.
I offered our friends some colorful epithets, saying that's much faster than we ordinarily would. But here's the bare minimum time frame to do this under the law. Making it something being legal doesn't make it a good idea, right? And so I immediately reached out to everybody and said, hey, we got a project. Looks very likely that it's going to be your property is going to be affected by this. Let's start a dialogue, and met with all varying responses. Right.
So we've communicated with, but we are unable to negotiate at this point. Correct?
Yeah, because I wouldn't have the foggiest idea what to offer money-wise, right?
Okay.
The last thing we want to do is offer something that's offering something too low would be insulting, and we don't want to take advantage of people. We also don't want to. We have an obligation not to waste taxpayer money and spend too much.
Correct.
The number that the appraiser is supposed to come up with is, imagine they wanted to sell and we wanted to buy, an arm's length transaction between a willing buyer and a willing seller. That's the imaginary number they come up with, right? And so we don't trust ourselves to do that. We have the appraiser do that, and they use comparable sales to figure out what other sales of similar property look like.
I have a few comments that I've been gathering here. First, thank you, Grant, for the overview. Very helpful, and I think for the public as well on what the process is, right? This is an if necessary, but this gives us at least in a position to have that conversation that you want to have on a fair market value. So thank you for that. I have some other comments as well, but my one question for you, John, correct me if I'm wrong. I believe I heard you said it was a 2016 study, 2017, somewhere in that time frame. Is that correct? Yes?
That's correct. It's 2017 study.
2017 study. So would I also be correct in assuming that really the only thing has changed from a geographic, there's not been really any significant change from a geographic standpoint. Really the only thing that has changed is the demand. Is that correct?
The demand continues to grow, correct?
Yeah.
And so as part of the 2017, I'm sure the study projected where you'd be at today and beyond that for the next 10 years.
That's exactly where I was getting to. Does this plan, the recommendation, take into account our projected growth over the next 10, 20 years? What I want to avoid is having this conversation 3 or 5 years from now or, down the road again. Are we thinking long-term with this recommendation, or is it in reaction to the 2016 study?
No, just to be clear, the 2016 study talked about well locations,
right?
Where the best locations.
Yeah,
that's not going to change.
Okay.
The 2025 facility master plan talks about when to start constructing these things. And so in that master plan, we talk about, and I don't have it in front of me, but sometime in early 2030s, needing 5 more Silurian wells.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to.
So we are going to have this conversation again at some point.
Okay. It's just where the next wells go after that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's a little early to do that because obviously things in that time period could change. Growth could slow way down. Growth could speed way up.
Speed way up. Yeah. I just wanted to make sure that we're looking today and tomorrow as much as we could.
Absolutely. And I'd just reiterate the fact that, we put these master plans together for a reason.
Yeah.
And we were very happy with the quality of the plan and for these purposes to have these discussions.
100%. That's what I was getting to is that we've got some plans in place. We've done the projections. We've run out the growth. We've run out different things like that. So it's not just a snapshot on this particular well set. It's a comprehensive view of everything.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think if I was listening to Brent correctly, So the word eminent domain is like a scary word for everybody, because you're taking, right? So is there a reason to vote on eminent domain now when we don't even have the value and everybody might come together
You can't get an appraisal yet.
without eminent domain?
This is the process for doing that. So, Chap, everything, like I said earlier, it's spelled out. This is. You could have an intern do this. It's paint by number. I'm sorry. I know you guys think I'm great at this, but this is a very, very basic process because every community has to have this available to it, because otherwise all you need is some unreasonable person to say no, and then your project doesn't work, right? And so you paint by number. You follow the steps in the order prescribed by Hoyle, and that's it. So where we're at right now is I have arranged for an appraiser, a primary appraiser, and then we have a secondary appraiser lined up to review their work to make sure it's right. And that's all because the DNR is involved here. They use the same rules that the Iowa DOT uses, which is the same rules as federal use. So there's a whole bunch of checks in place here, and there's not a lot of leeway in this process. To Councilor Smith's point earlier, if we're just having a conversation beforehand, right, and we can, well, your neighbor sold for X $1,000 an acre a couple of years ago. What do you say? We can negotiate on vibes all day long up until we get to this point. But we've sent the notice saying, we might need to use this tool. Here's your chance to come talk to us about it. And this is the point where that conversation switches to, this is under threat of eminent domain. Even if we don't actually do that, that sounds terrible, but actually that offers tax benefits. There are certain things, if you want to have a like-kind transfer for land or whatever, when you buy land, or you can defer your tax. I should not talk about taxes, but there are having this resolution passed triggers some potential safeguards and benefits for people as well. I'm not going to pretend that this is something you should celebrate. I'm just saying that there are other tools that become available because this tool is in the toolbox that offers other they get their attorney's fees paid if they have an attorney, and if an award is ultimately made that is 10% higher than our highest offer, for example, then we pay for their attorney's fees. They get an appraiser of their choice. They can get their own appraisal made. We pay for that as well. We can't pay for that stuff unless we're exploring this possibility. So, but
it's not about implementing right now, but to have that later as a possibility should we need it.
Yeah, to your point, it's scary, but the other word for it is due process, right? It gets everybody the chance to be heard. That's why we have the public hearing. This is why and we do everything in front of God and everybody, and we have multiple resolutions and so on to make sure that there's no sweetheart deals, that we're treating the taxpayers fairly and the property owners fairly. And so that I hope that can probably help you feel a little bit better about it. But I don't want to be Pollyanna-ish about it either. I know that these are people's, this is their land, their homes, and this is very personal to folks. And so I've had over the years a number of charged conversations with folks, and I hold absolutely none of them against those folks, right? We would all feel the same way. This is even though the process itself is very straightforward, the work is hard. This part of the job is one of the harder things that I do, and because it's serious. Mm-hmm. And I appreciate that the council is taking it seriously as well.
Thank you, Grant.
John, is that picture, how old is that picture? With the map on it?
The overview?
Yeah. Is that original to when we did study, or?
This map that I'm showing here, the overview, it's probably from 2024.
Okay.
This aerial is probably much older. Is that what?
Yep. If we could get that just updated at some point. It was just a little tricky to figure out where we were sometimes, if there was a way to do
see.
that.
Oh, well, I think this actually came from that 2016 study.
Right, so if we could
Yeah.
just draw it on the current city,
Sure. Yep.
I think it'll make things a little easier to understand because there's a lot of stuff that's filled in there now, and you kind of get a better idea of why things are where they need to be.
All right, can we move on? Sound good? All right, item B is public hearing regarding the water supply and treatment modifications improvement project. So anyone wishing to provide some comments, please come up and let us know who you are and what your questions are.
Good evening. I'm Lisa Green Douglas. I live on the property to the west of the property in question, but outside of the 500 feet notification. I checked that today. It was like 750 feet. I have a few
I'm
comments.
sorry, Lisa, which property, just for clarification?
With the property that is being looked at for the placement of this plant, the Deuce-Dykers property.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And there are a few things that are keeping me awake at night, not even about this. So I want to back up to that study that was referenced from 2016. And it said it was on the Silurian Aquifer. Last year, the county did a study and heard back the report of the Silurian Aquifer study. So there's more recent information. And then we combined that with some information from hydrology that we heard from in March of this year. And here's what keeps me awake at night and worries me. Water does not care about jurisdictional boundaries. So the drawdown currently on this, on the Silurian Aquifer in the Iowa City area is 13 meters in a 20-year span. So, we're looking at a finite resource at this point because the recharge is really, really, really slow. Like, our descendants, many generations out, will be talking about this, but we won't know anything about it. That's what we're leaving. There won't be any water there to use. And then you combine that with, somebody talked about the change, like there hasn't been any geological change, and that's certainly true. The demand change has definitely increased, but what has also changed and increased are our drought conditions. And so that slows down the recharge on an aquifer as well. So all of those things and that information, I think we probably provided that to the city of North Liberty. Everybody that draws from the Silurian Aquifer, and I mean everybody in terms of like municipalities, counties, whatever, needs to get together and like look at that stopping point of when we're going to draw more. Now, here's my question, and just like head nod or something. Are we talking about drawing more from this aquifer, or are we talking about just treating what's already generated? Like, is it a treatment plant? Or is it being just using that force? Because I've been doing a lot of learning and using that force that comes from there that you don't get at a place closer to the treatment plant. So are we just using that force, or are we actually drawing up from there?
We're drawing out of the aquifer,
Okay. Yeah.
sending it to the water
Yeah.
plant.
So it's kind of a combination then, both. Okay. So those are things that I just like, there's more information out there than maybe, or more recent information that could be helpful. And I think that we need to consider everything that we have. I get that, you have to do things in order. Sometimes you've got a project going and you're like, what comes first, the chicken or the egg? And you have to put certain things in place before you can move forward. But if you're not utilizing everything that's available in terms of information, then meeting those deadlines ends up not really mattering. Also, just the aerials that were there were from, did you say they were from 2016? Because there were aerials done last week. I checked them this morning. So there's some new aerials. It just kind of, like you said, there's some stuff that's been filled in there.
Yeah, the aerials we're using for our current stuff they're the new ones. But
Yeah, the ones from last week.
we were pulling something out of a 2016 study.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, because those are constantly changing, at least, in terms of all the building that we have going on around here. I don't know I know that your obligation for informing property owners is one thing, but I would just like to ask for a friendly being added to the list of nearby property owners, if that's a possibility. I don't know if there's any legal thing against that, so that I could do my homework and study and learn about this. But yeah, I just wanted you all to know that there is newer information about how quickly that aquifer is going down and how dire the situation is. So that concludes my remarks.
Thanks, Lisa.
I'm Niall Dustdiker. That's my wife, Lois. We are general partners of Dustdiker Garden Farms, which is a family farm that extends from 240th Street in a Z over to Swan Lake Road, and we have some other farmland elsewhere. And we first learned about this project in a letter from Grant Lintz in April, and I mentioned some of this, so I'm not going to go through all of this because I think I sent you an email. But basically it was, well, we're looking at some different sites for a well, and we need to have a well to improve the water supply for North Liberty. Can we look at your property and assess it? And we said emphatically, no, do not trespass. We are not part of North Liberty, and we do not permit you to trespass. Now, we've allowed North Liberty to do a snow fence in the past, and we try to be good stewards of the land. We have a land buffer so that along the fence line with Deerfield and Deerfield Park, so that we minimize any risk of herbicide spread and things of this sort. We also want to maintain the ability of that land to be developed at some point in the future, but we have no plans for that right now. Well, heard nothing. I got a note I discussed with your attorney, and he assured me that he would respect that. Then all of a sudden we hear this letter from May 6th, which we felt was threatening because it mentions, well, we're going to use your property and we are going to acquire your property and we will go through the rules of eminent domain. Well, as you've mentioned, that's kind of a scary concept. I asked 4 questions. 1, how did you determine that our site is the preferred site? Did you trespass? Did you do any testing? And the answer to that is no. Number 2, have you considered easements? No easements were mentioned. Well, as I've learned more about the project, yes, indeed, easements can be used for underground lines. And frankly, I don't have a problem with that because we can continue to use the land for agricultural purposes and potentially development if we want to do that. I then asked an interesting question in this letter. I said, well, now what is the scope of this project? Is this going to involve acquiring more land? And I was told, well, no, this is a very limited project. Well, that's not true. And I found your 2024 water facility plan. I learned just tonight that that was based on a study of 2016, so apparently it took 8 years to get there. But the water facility plan, which you've seen a couple pictures from, that plan has very definite direction and phases for obtaining more water. Now, wells 10 and 11 on that facility plan were within the city limits of North Liberty. And Then the other wells for the further of that plan are out in Madison Township. I don't know that Madison Township knows about that. That's all rural land. But the thing that concerned me is that this well and acquiring this land, taking this land, is going to cost the city, it's going to cost the taxpayers, it's going to cost you folks some money. There is property, which is where in the plan on 24 on your map, well number 11, was very close to Deerfield Park or maybe in Deerfield Park. The west half of Deerfield Park doesn't have anything in it. Sometimes it's not even mowed. The well, if the well is the black thing on this diagram, Deerfield Park is right across the fence line. And it would certainly potentially save the city the cost of acquiring 5 acres of land. And there's 200 feet in a circle anywhere in that western half of that park. Now, I'm not an engineer. I'm not telling you what to do or where to do it. But if you are following the plan as was written in 24 and you adopted it in April of 25, wells 10 and 11 were within the city limits of North Liberty. The thing that's new about this is you are now deciding that the city is going to go out and take somebody else's land. Now, granted, I would presume you'll pay an appropriate amount for it, and we're not against negotiating with the city. It's just we don't want our land in the city. We don't want to sell our land. If you take the chunk that you've got shown up here, it also impairs us farming a smaller chunk between the east half of that property there and the fence line. So you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to reimburse for that, which is going to cost you more money. This process needs to be carefully looked at. And again, as Supervisor Lisa says, this aquifer is going down. Is a 2016 study adequate to tell you what you need? And the study that you approved in 25, this water project study, you're not necessarily following that. I mean, you've got these other things listed, but you're not following that study. So my comments to you is, first of all, we're opposed to having the city of North Liberty acquiesce and grab our land. We're willing to look at different things, but if it has to be eminent domain, it may have to be eminent domain, okay? We're not opposed to easements. And we have legal counsel, and legal counsel points out it's a lot easier within city limits to use eminent domain than it is out in agricultural land and outside of city limits. Now, I'm not a legal person, so I don't know the other answers to that, but that's a fact, I believe. If you do proceed looking at this, I would urge you to table the motion and have your engineer take a good look at whether or not you couldn't place the well in the Deerfield Park because you've already got a road there, you've got city property, the wellhead, got a picture here. This is a wellhead. I mean, that's not much of a deterrent. It's also interesting. I think Mr. Lentz probably provided this. This may be AI generated, but that wellhead is in the undeveloped part of Deerfield Park because you can see the kids' playground area, et cetera. So this is not agricultural land. This was taken or provided as part of Deerfield Park. So I would urge you to either table this motion or have some further information as to why all of a sudden the city's going to start taking land that's outside of the city limits. And yes, this involves us today, but the next 5 wells are going to involve a lot of people in Madison Township in the not too near future. And is that the proper way to provide the water that you need? It's costly to run your line from this potential well down to the city treatment plant. Is there a closer location? There's a lot of different options and a lot of questions that I find unacceptable for us. And again, we are willing to work with the city, but this was done very quickly. It seems threatening to us, and you need to understand that we will do what we need to do. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Destacker. I wanted to address a couple of things that were here. Lisa, I share your concern about all of the aquifers across the Midwest and what that looks like for generations to come. What we're doing here tonight is following mandates that we follow from the state of Iowa federally. And I think that ties in, Mr. Dusteicher, to your question about the urgency that this looks like it was thrown at you, because the DNR is asking for things to be done in advance. So, and as Grant indicated earlier, this is not the pace in which he prefers to go or that we prefer to go. It is nonetheless the pace that we're required to go at to make this happen. I asked this question, John, I had a couple of questions, if you wouldn't mind. I know the answers to them already, but I want it for the public help. What would be the difference, and why did we not choose for this well to go into Deerfield? Why was that not a good idea?
Actually, I think I can speak to that one.
Thank you.
Perhaps.
Okay.
John, certainly chime in if you'd like, but the thought here is this is an active park, and if we were to locate a well here, of course we'd have to make sure and just like we're doing up here, meet the 200-foot radius of all the homes around it. So we looked at a drawing, and we could certainly get something to this group to show you what it would look like. It would take up a fair amount of usable space in an active neighborhood park, and I imagine we would have some concerns with residents about that as well. So the idea here is to prioritize the park and make sure we continue to have that for our residents.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that was what I thought as well, but I needed to understand it, because if we move this into Deerfield, even on the northern side right there, while we might maintain some distance east-west, we don't have 200 feet down there to the south for that, and we also don't control anything to the north of it. So anything that could be developed in the future is going to need to be outside of those 200 feet on there. I don't know if you want to address the next question that I had, but specifically when it comes to the 2025 study, that question was raised. John, can you tell us, what's the difference between a study and an agreement, and then getting into the details and doing that work? What sort of changes naturally happen, and why did they change a little bit in this way?
Sure. Again, the 2016-17 study that was done was primarily trying to find the best well spacing for the Silurian aquifer, so that we weren't affecting the wells associated with that. So, and these are general locations that are shown as part of this study. When this was done, it wasn't, it's got to be here. It's plus or minus, 500, 1,000 feet is what I would assume we could make work for each one of these wells.
It sounds good. I misunderstood. The concern was about the study from 2025, and Mr. Dusteicher, if you could confirm for me, are you questioning the location in what that study that we just did last year in that plan? If you can, please do.
your map showed, the map is from your study that you approved April of 25. It's the 2024 water study.
Okay.
And that map showed number 10 and number 11 within the city limits, and number 11 specifically was very close to Deerfield Park or wherever it was, somewhere in Deerfield. And I'm not saying that that's the best location for your well. I'm
Right.
just saying that that's what the study showed at that time. And presumably, if this was done from 2016, Deerfield wasn't fully developed by then.
Yeah, no, I think that's an important distinction right there. What John addressed was the 2016 study was just a general concept, but what I'm trying to drill down, John, are there any specific, how much different is the study that we approved just last year versus the location of this well?
Good question. I think it was as part of the 2024 study. This is that same map that I was showing you, and we're showing number 11 in the general location.
Okay, so we don't have the well identified in an exact location.
Yeah, it's just a big blob. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And this might be creating the confusion. So the impression is that the location of that well was within the city limits, and that because the study was done in just last year, or 2024, we approved last year, that property location has been firmly identified. But you're saying that it was not. We were still just using that. So what we're doing right now and proceeding is a takeoff of this plan, but it was using that image from that 2016, 2017 study.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Do you guys have any? I don't think I have any other questions. Are there a more public comment?
Lisa Green Douglas, I have a question. So if you were to use Dusteicher's land and to create this, you said something about that it would be $18 million, a little over $18 million, and would be completed by 2028. And Ryan, you and I were talking beforehand, and you said that the city, if they acquire land for like utilities and water and such, that you don't have to annex it. So it's still county property. Who gets taxed for that $18 million? County people or city people?
There's no tax involved. All this
So how is that paid back? How is that?
user fees for the water.
Okay.
It's a utility. It's an enterprise fund.
And so it's usage only in the city?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So, and then there was one other question I had. Yeah, I guess, just going to that, I really appreciated your remarks about, are we looking to the future? Are we taking into consideration what the growth might be and all of those things? And I can't emphasize enough. What is the growth and what is that drawdown rate? And where are we going to be in 10 years, in 20 years? In 20 years, it's going to be down 42 feet.
Lisa, if you wouldn't mind, I think this is something that we've already covered, and if time is of the essence.
Yeah,
I
think
if you have
that
new additional information.
You're not using all the information available to you. So I just think that some of those things have been considered, but some things have not been considered. So.
Thank you. Yeah. By all means, Mr. Dusteicher.
Just one other question. On this map, is the black area the well?
Yes.
The black area is the well.
Yes.
Do you all notice where that is? That's just across the fence line.
I'm with you.
And look back. There's a house. See, there's a house. There's the street that you propose to build, some sort of parking, but the well is going to be on the fence line. Any reason why it can't be on the other side of the fence line and it's your property? You can do an easement on our property.
That was a question I was looking for some answers for.
Yeah, I don't understand. See, that's first I've seen this picture. I thought they were going to put the well out at the end of that road that they were going to build. And, I said to Lois and I were saying, you want to build a street and put a parking area there, and then you got all the rest of this land, and somebody commented, well, that could be part of the park. Well, we're not paying, the city shouldn't annex this land to add more to the park. But now if you're putting your well right on that fence line, you're utilizing the western half of Deerfield Park because the kids' stuff is way over on the other side, but you're pretty close to that house right there too. That just doesn't make sense to me. So that's just the question is, if that's where the well's going to be, move it 10 feet across the fence and you don't have any problem with me.
Thank you. I apologize. I've been addressing you as Mr. Dusteicher, and I know that's Dr. Dusteicher. My apologies. I thought I had asked John for some clarification, but you jumped in on it. John, do you have anything else to add?
Yeah. It's my understanding that the DNR requires us to control that area, that 200 feet around the wells, especially when we're outside of our city limits. And the reasons why is because you have to control the land application of chemicals that happens in that area. So herbicides, pesticides, those things like that have to be controlled around a 200-foot radius of the well. Within your city limits, the city has an ordinance that already prohibits property owners, the city, from applying pesticides, herbicides, of those things within 200 feet of the well. We can't control that outside our city limits. The DNR requires us to control that area, and that is why we need this 200-foot radius around the well fill site. So even if the well was pushed just a little bit south here, we would still need an access drive, our building, electrical, mechanical, everything to access that, but we would still need to control 200 feet around that area, which would require us still to acquire this property from the doctor.
Thank you, John. I think that's what I was looking for, and while that might not be the answer Dr. Dusteicher was looking for, but it's the reason why. So we need to control the 200 feet to the north of it. So that really kind of simplified it for me. I appreciate that explanation. Are there any additional comments during this public hearing?
Good evening. My name's Robert Sampman. You don't know me, I don't know most of you, but we'll probably get to know each other as time goes on. What we're dealing here, and I'm thinking things a little bit differently, out of the box, if you will, how you're thinking. We've taken water as a real luxury item as human beings. My time in this community goes long back, and my great-great-grandfather was one of the first homesteaders of this town in 1838. In fact, his log cabin is still part of the house out here off Scales Bend Road. Back in not too many days ago, or years ago, I can remember when we had dug wells and cisterns in this town, and people carried the water into the kitchen with a bucket. Generally, a little guy like me, who was about 8 or 10 years old, got to do that. So times have changed. You put in water systems, you've done real well. But it's a luxury that we're dealing with. The elephant in the room right now, and nobody's really addressed this thing, we're on a replenishing supply. The AIs that have been hitting this area, they're here for one reason. We're a little bit ignorant on the use of our resources. And people know that from out of state. You go to California, you go to Nevada, you go to Arizona, you're not going to get this kind of reception. We do not have that plentiful supply. The Silurian aquifer starts about Highway 20 and goes down to about the Missouri border and covers about the eastern third of Iowa. It's been a good aquifer. The Jordan is one that's we call it a 2,000 foot deep well. You guys have got 3 of them. But you're limited. I know you're limited. You only draw so much water per year out of that. The point here is, I think it's time we do some critical thinking. On the 16th of February of this year, Greg Brennan, who's a University of Iowa hydrologist, addressed a group of citizens in Solon, Iowa, about this very thing. And they said then that the communities of North Liberty, Tiffin, Solon are growing, but the Silurian aquifer is being deplenished. On the 28th of August of 2025, Julie Thomas, who's a member of the Geological Survey, United States Geological Survey, made a study, and it said by the year 2045, that the Silurian aquifer would probably be 13 to 45 feet lower than where it is now. I can attest to that. In 1988, we had a severe drought here in Iowa, and the Midwest, actually. What happened is one morning we got up and we found out the faucet did not spew out any water. Our stock tanks were running dry. Had to call our well people. Well, they were busy. Come to find out, during that drought, the University of Iowa's air conditioning system drew so much water out of the Silurian aquifer that we had to drop our pumps in our wells. I was the 189th one the Atlanta well firm dropped, and they had much more on their list. And there were a bunch of other well people doing the same thing, Generiches, Novotnys. It was a universal thing. So, you know, this Silurian aquifer spreads out. Everybody's on it. It's a good aquifer, but we've got to think out of the box today if we want to preserve and keep going where we're going. Niall talked about over here in Madison Township. I know a little bit about Madison Township. I think if they were to get one of those charming letters that Grant here sends out that says, hey, we want your property, and if you don't agree with this, we're going to take it anyway. That's pretty threatening. You know, got to think about this. They've got water rights too. It's not your water. It's not their water. It's everybody's water, actually, but they happen to own the surrounding area around this water. So what I'm saying to you all, North Liberty has grown, Tiffin has grown, Solon has grown. Have you asked yourselves, have we started to outgrow our resources? That's a solid question you should be thinking about. In one of your articles, I read your plan. It's a good plan in places. It's got a Band-Aid approach in others. But your projections for the year 2045 is to have 48,400 people as residents of this town. That's almost double, or maybe it is more double. So instead of a small amount of water you're going to draw today, you're going to be drawing a great more tomorrow. So what's the impact going to be on these AI centers? Nobody knows. The latest proposal, that the one that wants to locate up by Palo nuclear plant, put in an application and a paper talking about drawing out of the Silurian aquifer. Now, most people don't understand these aquifers, but their proposal was 14 million gallons a day. Okay? Think about that for a little bit. 14 million a gallon a day. What's the worst thing that happens on some of those systems? The water comes in one end, it never leaves. It goes up in steam. There is no ejection. These ones that are being built up here right now on Edgewood Road, there's a couple of them that are trying to think about something a little different, use a little different system, but mainly they are doing the same thing. That water is not going back as runoff or anything else. It's just going up in steam. It's going to affect a lot of things. So right now, we as people don't know what we don't know. But my recommendation to you guys is maybe we ought to think about where we're headed and do we really want to go? You know, heaven forbid, slow down development. I know that's motto of North Liberty, grow, 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 grow. But if you outgrow your resources, what are you going to do then? Where's your plan taking you? Nowhere. You're going to have a disaster. I visit with a lot of people. I live between here and Tiffin. And we've got people moving in, and you all have them. But I visit with a lot of them. And where are you from? And they'll say, California. Why are you here? Well, we couldn't afford to live in California anymore. Well, we couldn't pay the water bill, we couldn't pay the electric bill, we couldn't pay the rent, we couldn't do this, couldn't do that, the other thing. Just got a good place to live. They run out of the resources. We have a good chance with this electrical problem, along with water. But water is what we're here tonight about, and it's something that I want to encourage you to give a good, hard look at your future planning. Can you afford to do this? This costs millions and millions of dollars. And if Grant sends those letters out to those guys in Madison Township and they're going to say, oh, heck, we're going to fight this, you know, you're going to spend a lot of money and you're going to waste a lot of time. And I don't think you'll be successful. So where do you go from here? This is the things you got to be thinking about. This is critical planning. Now, you can sit here and say, I'm going to kick the can down the road because I'm not going to be here in 19 more years. Ryan won't be working here anymore. He'll be retired. You guys will all be off doing something else. So it's not your problem. It is your problem. You're here, you're now, and this is when you should be thinking about where are we headed in the future and how are we going to get there and how are we going to do it. Failure to plan is a plan to fail. Pure and simple. I thank you.
Thank you, General Setman. And I'll reiterate tonight that we are taking the next step that we need to for growth. Getting out to Madison Township is going to be many, many years from now. If we are doing that, we're going to be there like we are close with these wells right now. That said, I do not disagree with the conversations that need to be had on how we're using water, and I'll say that again. This is a concern I brought up to you all in our planning session a couple of months ago, and I probably brought it up 2 years prior to that, if not 4 years prior to that. It's an issue that we need to look at. It's not on the agenda tonight. It's not part of this plan. The plan is to take care of those residents that we have here and in the very foreseeable future out there. So I'll try to separate those thoughts, but we need to be thinking about and collaborating with our county and our state on how we conserve water, because this is a finite resource. Does anyone else have any comments from the public?
I do, but I'm going to remain seated. I got bad knees.
Mr. Cameron, would you mind just speaking up loudly, and we have some microphones above you?
I will.
Thank you.
Has there been any studies for alternatives rather than putting these Center in or Jordan wells down? For example, the regional water treatment facility, different municipalities, Coralville, Tiffin, North Liberty, Swisher.
I don't believe there has been. I don't know the answer to that question.
How about the alluvial wells north of here, the reservoir?
John, can you hear these questions okay? Because I think these might be questions for you.
I apologize. I could not hear that.
He's
Yep. Alternatives to drilling wells. Alluvial wells north of here, they're shallow wells. I think Cedar Rapids uses quite a few of those. Other cities along the major rivers do as well. And then any thought on a regional treatment facility, a regional water system?
I just had some thoughts here, and Corville has just drilled a new well number 16. And other alternatives, rather than drill that well, were apparently considered. Expanded existing well fields with additional Silurian and Jordan wells. Project was selected for ability of land, minimize the impact to the environment. Other alternatives were considered. Additional treatment would be necessary to maintain water quality. But it all goes down to the fact that, constructing surface intake and in and out of the existing wells or connecting to the regional water facility was really never considered. And apparently it hasn't not here as well. It's just a stopgap because you're under the gun.
I'm not certain that
we're talking long term.
Correct, and that's what I was going to get at. I'm not certain that this project qualifies in any sense whatsoever to be stopped in order for us to consider a regional system. I think that goes right along with our conservation efforts that need to be studied, and whether or not a regional system should be and can be established. We have no idea what that might look like, but I think that's a little bit outside of the scope of what we're trying to determine here tonight. So my question, John, is can you describe to us or tell us about in the study where alluvial wells may have come into the conversation and why they may not be a good solution or why they weren't part of the plan that we have in front of us?
And Mayor, I would love to be able to speak to that. I was not the engineer that worked on that particular study. And I know that they hired a hydrogeologist to investigate the best source of water for the demands for the city of North Liberty. I'm assuming that they looked at shallow wells. I'm assuming also as part of this, they looked at actually using a surface water from the Iowa River, which is a very challenging treatment process to use the surface water source for that. So we would have to get back to you about the actual study and what was looked at for shallow wells from an alluvial well standpoint.
Thank you.
I would know, I do recall this study, and we can probably circulate it here. We looked at both of those items. We also looked at reusing the wastewater effluent, the wastewater effluent coming out. We talked about that as a possibility. That, of course, is extremely expensive, but an option. However, and we submitted that report to the DNR, and they agree. The DNR agrees with this. The Silurian aquifer is the best step for us right now.
But alluvial wells, we're in a unique position here with the Corville Reservoir. Not all communities have that option. And then in the study, or in the meetings today, everything is addressed as divisions 3 and 4, or 2 and 3 rather. In the study, everything is phased by phases. What's the difference?
We refined this as from the original study, and so now we've broken this up into different divisions. And so Division 1 is what I mentioned, to extend the conversion of the existing ASR into raw water main. And Division 2 is simply to hire a drilling contractor to drill well number 10 and 11. That's very specialized construction, so we just wanted to hire them directly. And Division 3 was all the raw water main utility work associated that I discussed. And Division 4 is the final completion of the well sites with the buildings and structures and pavement, along with the upgrades needed at the water treatment plant. So it's all come together, Divisions 1 through 4, different bid packages, all just over $18 million.
And when the documentation was assembled to approve these things, there was a mention of a phase 1 and 2A. So you've mentioned some terrifying letters that I've sent out. Those are the paint by number letters required by the state. They are terrible letters. At that point in time, we were referring to those phases as 1 and 2A, but they are now properly reconsidered as divisions 2 and 3. And so for tonight, the next item on the agenda for the resolution is to be able to acquire land for drilling the well, to be able to acquire land for.
But in the summary and conclusion, section 7, page 7-02, summary of project costs and the schedule and opinion. We got phase 1A, phase 2, and then we have the alternative 1 and alternative 2. What's all that about? Has that been changed?
What you're looking at is a plan that provides framework for these projects. So yes, things have changed, and I'd be happy to visit with you and go through that page by page with you.
But we have here phase 1A, for example, drill 2 Silurian wells. That's what's in debate today. Then you got the membrane replacement and build out. Estimated completion 2028.
Yes.
That's still valid.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see the current phasing.
Sure.
Which you identify as divisions.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay. That's all I have. I think there's alternatives to be had, but short term, you're focused on the short term.
Thank you, Mr. Cameron. Anyone else in the audience wishing to address us during this public hearing?
I was going to answer some of the questions that were asked here tonight, I guess.
Greg, can you introduce yourself, please?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Greg Metternich, the water superintendent here in North Liberty. I've been here a number of years, and to the question of a regional system, that has been looked at, was talked about before the treatment plant was invested in and built and constructed. And at that time, it was not a real feasible option. The other thing we have to remember is even with a regional system, they'll still need water. They'll still need these expansions. They'll still need everything to account for growth. So it would be potentially shifting up from North Liberty to, we're still going to pay, we're still going to build, we're still going to have all these investments in infrastructure going forward. To the question of alluvial wells, with the type of treatment process we have with the RO membranes, before the state would allow us to construct that type of treatment plant, we had to go out and actually set up a pilot unit, run off of the different types of raw water to make sure that we didn't foul membranes, to make sure that we didn't cause any problems with the treatment process. And alluvial wells tend to be surface water oriented. So you have a lot of other contaminants to deal with, and the type of treatment process that we're running, I'm not saying it can't be done, but it would potentially get very expensive, and additional equipment would have to be added to try and treat using those waters. Just want to clarify that, I guess.
Thanks for that, Greg. That was good context. Are there any other comments? Thank you all for what you've provided to us, and I will close the public hearing. Move on to item C, which is resolution number 2026-62. This is a resolution to authorize approval to proceed with the public improvement the Water Supply and Treatment Improvements Project, Divisions 2 and 3. I think we all know what this one is, so I won't ask for any questions, but could I have a motion for consideration?
Just a few comments before maybe any motion from me, Mayor, if you don't mind. I just wanted to first say thank you to everyone that
Would you
joined us.
mind, Brian? Could we make a motion first and then we'll get
Oh,
to
sure.
that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. The Brians. Okay, Brian.
Thank you for that point of order. Just wanted to again say thank you all for your perspective, your passion, the viewpoints. It is certainly helpful, I think, to hear and understand where you all are coming from, and the perspective that you do does impact this council for sure. So thank you for that. Comments on just the what's in front of us from a voting standpoint. As I understand, Grant, thank you again for the overview. This is a tool, if necessary, in order to put some things in place so that we can have the appropriate negotiations, which you've said willing to have. So thank you for that willingness and that flexibility to have that negotiations. As I understand, this is just arming us to have that conversation even more intentionally. My understanding of this is this has been an intentional approach. As much transparency as we've had, and given the timeframes that some of our hands were tied with the DNR. So thank you for explaining that as well, because I think that all goes into the decision we're making, again, just on whether we should have this tool at the ready if we need. And then I think just my last comment would be more along the lines of, there's a quote, and I'm going to butcher it, but Kirby Smart is a head football coach at the University of Georgia. And he has a quote that says something along the lines of, leadership means making decisions, tough decisions, for the most, even though it may negatively impact or maybe not be the most popular decision. And that's what this council is charged to do with. So that's the lens that I will be viewing vote through. But I certainly appreciate the passion and perspective that you all have shared, because I can guarantee you, at least from my seat, it is impactful. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Welcome, Brian. Any other questions or comments?
Mayor, from my spot, I too had concern about how quickly we moved to the eminent domain conversation, as I shared earlier. The perspective that was shared in the education to me for tonight was, I too, and similarly, was looking at why could the wellhead not be in the park, and then the allowance of right-of-way allow the continued agricultural work. What I have learned in this process is, by code, even if that wellhead were to be in the park, we still have to control 200 feet north of that wellhead, which would require us to enter into negotiations with the doctor and his family to control that parcel. So by moving the wellhead into the park, which is what my first choice was coming into tonight and why I asked the questions that I did, still would not allow for the agricultural use of the property of the 200 feet north of the wellhead, based off of state code saying that we have to control that for chemical application purposes. So that was impactful for me on the education part. I'll echo what Brian said. Mr. Cameron has been in council chambers a number of times. He has negotiated in good faith with the city on multiple projects. And Cameron, Mr. Cameron, it's always good to hear your perspective, and we appreciate the work that you've done with the city. And to the two new folks, three folks that I met this evening, I appreciate the conversations, and your comments tonight, as you saw, helped educate us on what exactly we were looking at. I think that longer term conversations about water and water consumption absolutely have to occur, but it is, again, outside of the scope of what we're looking at this point. And so with that education and knowing that we are going to have to control the property to the north, even if we put the wellhead in the park, which was my first option, I will be voting in favor to move forward. I will ask and I will assure from my seat and with my one vote and my conversations with the city manager that happen frequently, that these conversations that are had with you are done so as we always do, appropriately to the code, transparently with the public. And we look forward to those negotiations moving forward and hoping that we're able to work with you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Other comments? Tracy, could we have a roll call, please?
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Fortney,
Aye.
Thank you all. Motion carries 4-0. Item D is resolution number 2026-63. This is a resolution of approval of the access agreement with MAJ Properties I, LLC regarding the water supply and treatment improvements projects divisions 2 and 3. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Leibold. Are there any questions about this one? Tracy, could we also roll call, please?
Fortney,
Aye.
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Move on to item 14. This is 2740 Stoner Court site plan. And Russ, we've heard from you all night long. We're excited about this.
No. Are we able to get there we go. All right. This is a preliminary site plan, another one in the Industrial 380 Industrial Park. This is at the very south end of Stoner Court, 5.19 acres. Property zoned light industrial and commercial urban flex on the land use, so the zoning is consistent with the land use. And there's a site plan which shows a building addition on the north side and south side of the building. The dark gray area would be an outdoor storage area. Notably, we do require in the ordinance for outdoor storage areas to be paved and there be screening. So it was certainly a discussion that we had considering that we're on a very important corridor through North Liberty on being I-380. Here's a couple renderings of just showing the building. The building is in the center, and then the additions would be on the left and the right, or the north and south. We do have the newer sections require masonry per our ordinances. These are they're shown on the site plan, but these are the landscaping materials. I wanted to give a graphical representation of what those would be. So it's a mixture of, they would be minimum of 5 feet required at the time of planting. These are evergreens. They're not deciduous. So we'll be out checking to make sure they're installed to perform an adequate buffer around that area, because that's an important, but there's 4 different types of evergreens shown. These are the approval standards that we have, and it was staff's and planning commission's opinion that they met those standards. We do not have any objections to the request currently, and the planning commission did have one finding and they unanimously recommended approval. And I do see Doug here with Brain Engineering to represent the application. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Russ. Any questions for Russ before we turn this over?
Just one question, Russ. So the screening, that's industrial zone. The cul-de-sac to the north and the west, are they having to screen north and west, or just east for?
Nope. So it's on the south and on the west side of the parking lot, and along the east. And then actually, since you have some existing concrete, what they did was they put the screening along the north end of the property. So it'll be screened on all 4 sides.
Screening an industrial building from other industrial buildings.
Screening the outdoor storage area.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's specific to outdoor storage areas, those conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, certainly if this was just an industrial building and they were doing all uses inside and just a parking lot, wouldn't even require it. Good question.
Any others for Russ? There is an applicant presentation.
Doug Brain with Brain Engineering, engineer for the project. Not a whole lot to add. I think the city did a great job putting everything together. It's just expanding the business, and so expanding the building and then the parking lot or the outdoor storage, just to expand everything.
Thank you. Any questions? Appreciate it. We'll move on to item C, which is resolution 2026-64. This is a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for I-380 Industrial Park Lot 15, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Smith, seconded by Leibold. Any other questions? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Is that everybody? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Item 15 is Cherry Street Commercial Subdivision. And Russ, back to you for Planning Commission and staff recommendations.
Thank you, Mayor. This is adjacent to the North Liberty Community Center. It's probably one of the easiest plats we've done. There's really no physical changes on the property. It's my understanding there's one a larger lot. It's actually less than an acre, but they just want to dissolve the condominium regime and subdivide into 2 lots. And so you just see those 2 lots, just the way the parking lot is configured. They'll have a shared access agreement, which is already existing. Again, just a very straightforward, no public improvements or anything like that. And in fact, since we didn't have any public improvements, the subdivision ordinance says that we do not have to have a good neighbor meeting. There's really no purpose. And so there are no objections to the request. And the approval standards are in Chapter 180. The Planning Commission had 2 findings, and they unanimously recommended approval. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks, Russ. Are there any questions? Is there an applicant presentation? Seeing none, I'll move to item C, which is resolution number 2026-65. This is a resolution approving the preliminary plat for Cherry Street Commercial Subdivision, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved.
Second.
By Wason, seconded by Smith. Tracy, could I have a roll call, please?
Leibold,
Aye.
Courtney,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Kept up with you that time. Item 16 is Urban Lofts preliminary site plan. Russ, can you take it from here?
Thank you, Mayor. So this is a request of UCD Holdings, approval of a preliminary site plan on 10.18 acres. We discussed this quite a bit, mostly last year. And it shows property location north and south side of Cherry and Zeller and west of the Crandig Railroad. This property was rezoned to C3 and a small portion being P in the public use district in the Muddy Creek area. The P portion will ultimately be dedicated to the city. And on the map on the right side is a future land use map, which is urban high intensity and also the public open space. So zonings are consistent with the future land use. Kind of 2 sections. The left one would be towards Cherry Street, and the one on the right would be towards Zeller. But the site plan proposes 4 63-unit buildings and 2 51-unit buildings, total of 354 units. It'd be related private infrastructure. And the site plan is consistent with the concept plan depicted during the 2025 zoning map amendment. There were some changes, but mostly trying to move the buildings away from the residential properties to the east. You may recall that there was a building height limitation with the CUC3 rezoning ordinance to limit the building height. CUC3 allows for up to 75 feet, but this was a limitation for 60 feet to generally be consistent with what an industrial building could have been built with a hip or a gable roof. Here are some renderings of the building. One thing that we've emphasized to the scale of these buildings was to have some building articulation, both vertically and horizontally, to add some interest to the building, which is shown here. We do have the just 2 approval standards, because consistency with all adopted ordinances and regulations, and consistency with the comprehensive plan. And again, staff and planning commission, it's our opinion that it achieves consistency with those. Would also like to point out that the preliminary plat has already been approved, and it is very consistent with what is shown on the preliminary plat. Preliminary plat was submitted after the rezoning, and again shows those buildings moved away from those residential properties to the east of the Crandig Railroad. Some things notable also, I think we talked at the rezoning hearing, was a landscape buffer, a hedgerow adjacent to the Crandig Railroad, just to kind of block headlights that would be coming on. Those are shown on the preliminary site plan. Just kind of want to reiterate what we think the traffic impacts would be. We have Cherry Street, or the most recent data that we have for both streets, Cherry and Zeller, is 2022, and those are done by DOT. The West Cherry Street is about 4,600. West Zeller Street is about 4,200. And those are generally in the 30% of capacity range. I checked with our MPO office, and the maximum of both streets is 13,000. So just gives you an idea of what the current traffic is compared to what the capacity is. We just looked at what traffic impacts would be. 4.54, when we look at an average daily trips, those are the traffic that we would anticipate would be on both roads throughout the day. Those are rated at 4.54 per dwelling unit, and that gives a total impact of 1,607. And you'd split that between both streets. So 804 going to Cherry, 804 to Zeller as an estimate. I would note that, for a single family residence, the rate for traffic is about 9.55 per dwelling unit. This is obviously much less, more than half. Generally, because the housing site, the unit sizes are smaller, you have less people living in them. And also that we anticipate people will walk and ride their bicycles and things like that. Also in transportation, you look at kind of what the AM and PM peak is, and these are people that are entering in the roadway during the morning commute and the evening commute. The rate is the AM peak 0.45 and the PM peak 0.39. And so those correspond to, let's see, the AM peak, 159 vehicles and 138 in the PM. Overall, I think this demonstrates that the overall impact, although it's a large development, it'll be impactful certainly. The overall impact to the transportation system is quite low. You're moving from like a low 30 to into the 40% range of the capacity of that roadway. So there's still plenty of adequate capacity on both roadways. There are 2 letters of objection that were received. There was one finding, and the Planning Commission accepted that listed finding and forwards the request to City Council with a recommendation for approval. And that vote at the Planning Commission was unanimous. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Russ. I don't see, is there an applicant presentation? Thank you. I don't mean to just skip right over you after all this time.
Certainly. John Marner with MMS Consultants representing the applicant. Just state quickly, Brandon apologizes, not able to be here this evening to speak to you. I would just add to Russ's presentation that, as he pointed out, we from the beginning of this project, way back at the zoning, there's been changes that we've talked about. He touched on them briefly. We changed it, looked at the orientation of the buildings, pushing the buildings back away from the east property line as best as possible, providing different size buildings, those 51 unit buildings, and then the other buildings. And those 51 unit buildings are the ones where the full face of the building is facing to the east, but those are the ones that are also pushed back The larger buildings with the more units are the ones where you're only looking at the end of the unit, so you're not looking at that entire length of the building. And other than that, I don't have anything else to add. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Is there any questions for John?
John, what's the buffering that's been added? Because that was a significant talking point from a member of the community, and it looks like you've added that.
Yes, we've, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Okay. So we have the 10-foot buffer along that east property line along the railroad. It's a mix of trees, deciduous trees, generally speaking, and shrubbery. So it's a little bit of a layered effect there where you've got the shrubs and you have the trees to provide some, it's not just one continuous row of arborvitae, for lack of a better way to put it. It's a mix of species there.
I had a question about the entrances onto Cherry and Zeller Street. There was questions with regards to how close it was to the tracks. Did we take a look at that?
Yes. Do you want to?
Yeah. We did review that with the Crandick Railroad about a year ago, just that exact same question. What's their rules, regulations? They have a requirement for a minimum of 50 feet from the track to that nearest driveway. I don't have my drawings here from zoning, but I think we're about 85 to 90 feet. So they both said, yeah, those meet our requirements for the tracks. We don't have an issue with that.
So what are the requirements for street access? Because is that considered a driveway then?
Yeah, this is not a public street. So this is a driveway access to this development on both sides. So we would use driveway standards then instead of the public street.
I'll apologize in advance because I'm new to this, but why 354 units? Why so many in that small area?
Yeah, this is something that we looked at last year, really during the rezoning. It was really, we looked at a couple of different options about how to scale down the project. I think 300, there was a variety of different options during the rezoning of can we do townhouses and things like that. And it just, I think the financial impact of being able to really, it made a project not feasible. If, certainly I think we looked at compatibility of, okay, we could make this all townhouses if we wanted to. But the problem is you're not going to make the project work from a financial standpoint of the acquisition, tear down the existing industrial, and then developing those properties. It was just not financially feasible.
Do any of these fall in the work credit? What is that?
Workforce housing?
Yeah.
No, these won't. They did not apply for that, and the likelihood of getting 2 applications funded in 1 year.
Okay.
Ryan, I would say, though, they don't qualify for funding because of the unit price, but I foresee these being used as workforce housing for sure.
Sure. I was strictly talking about the actual the state program. Whether they just didn't apply for it. Those are limited funds.
Yeah. So. But when we have talked about in the past about a lack of workforce housing and the number of units for workforce as we've tried to get larger companies to move to North Liberty, that's been one of our sticking points is the lack of workforce housing. This will be one of those, even though it's not being funded through the government as workforce housing. I just want to make that distinction from my seat.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about this during the rezoning, but the character of this area is really dramatic as you cross literally as you cross railroad tracks. We have a much different scale of development as you go west of the Crandick. I think as you go east, and you can see the map on our future land use map to the right, larger lots. I think different character entirely. And so we really looked at that as being the dividing line for something that would be higher density. And our discussion in 2025 was, if we had this type of scale of development east of the tracks adjacent to kind of our original town, it just, that scale wouldn't be appropriate. But this is really, this is really was the edge of town, and hence the industrial area was built there. And as Cherry Street it hasn't been that long that Cherry Street was extended, then you had more of a contemporary type of development with a different type of scale. And so, in our opinion, continues to be that scale is much different, although close and adjacent. There is some separation to what defines a character east of the tracks versus west of the tracks.
So we had approved the building across from the rec center, which was pretty industrial looking units and stuff. And the look of this is really industrial. Is there any way to blend it to be more of a transition to like what we have across from the rec center, or is that not an option? Like how?
I suppose I would differ on you on an industrial look, and I don't know what you mean by that. I don't know what you mean by. I don't know if you mean by just having a flat roof or.
Well, I guess the flat roofs and the, it's the steel color and like the brick, and to me it looks more industrial than like homey and.
I have talked to the developer about the steel, and I think that might be a change.
He sent pictures. They're very small on my phone. He sent them right before I got here, that they just had some updated renderings. I don't know how set in stone they are, so I don't want to mislead anybody by presenting something. I'm happy to share them with you. I'm going to walk them around again.
Again, I apologize.
They're in a
working. Because I wasn't part of those conversations.
And that's fine. I would note that those are accent details. You still have quite a bit of masonry, the 40%. You have a lot of window glazing. So and then these, what we would call in kind of an accent material. I would note about the flat roof is super common in more urban environments. And in fact, for multifamily buildings in commercial, we require them to have a flat roof with a parapet. When you start getting into a gable roof or a roof like that, it tends to be a little bit more of a residential type feel, which is not bad, but it's just a different type of development style.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Sorry, were there any other questions? All right, I didn't think so. I'll move on to item C, which is resolution number 2026-66, and this is. I'm sorry, Artie, we don't have it on the agenda.
I thought that was simply an error.
I will welcome an opportunity to hear from you, but please limit it. We do know the comments.
I'm well aware of the time. I get up at 4:30 in the morning.
No,
I'm cutting into my beauty. I'm gonna look like crap.
All right, I'll make an exception on this, but if you.
I actually thought you'd made an error.
No.
Or I would have spoken at the very beginning and been home in bed by now. All of you know who I am. I want to hand these out. This is different than what I submitted previously. What I'm asking for now is a safety study. Something I know I've asked for before. I'm sure the microphones pick me up well because I'm loud.
Thank you, Marty.
And I have one of those distinctive voices that carries well. I have tried multiple times to get a safety study done on this. And I think the problem is that maybe I didn't look at, as the gentleman said before, outside the box. SUDES, which I've been reading a lot, and boy, is it boring, states that traffic studies should be done under certain circumstances. The problem is we're only looking at this phase by phase. We shouldn't be looking at it as a phase. UCD took $20 million of my money. And I really think that you need to look at it as a whole, as the community does. And in saying that, it then well fits within the parameters. Also, if I understood SUDES, once the minute you hit 100 cars during peak hours, these safety studies become more prevalent and something we really need to do. Now, I know I'm on a limited time. That's why I included all these wonderful thoughts to all of you. I know you're tired and it's been a long day. You've been here a long time. I've never seen one of these go quite so late. But I also know that SUDES says that the studies can be originated not only by the planning director, but it falls on the city engineer's responsibility list too. So we got two people here that are personally the ones who are accountable for whether or not these safety studies get done. So I'm asking you, and I personally have asked myself and many people, why can't we get a safety study done? I actually looked at the accident sheet online just before I came, and if you take your picture and you include 965 all the way down to Stewart, just including that area, 25% of the accidents happen in that space. What is that? 2% of North Liberty? 1%? We already have a traffic issue there. The accidents are happening there. You've got 2 unsignaled crosswalks, and you're saying we want to be a community. I've given you all my points. I'm going to let you guys ask the questions, and Russ, I'll send this to you in the morning so you can add it.
Okay.
I appreciate you being willing, and I know you guys have talked enough tonight, but if you'd really think about this and realize that SUDES, it stands for, help me out.
Statewide Urban Design and Specification.
Thank you. Thank you. These are guidelines that the city and the state really recommend. So if you would pass a few of these questions around, I know I'm on a limit, but these are things I think we really need to think about. Also, one last point. I went back through so many of your meetings, and I could only find one site, one time that a council member actually voted nay, and it was on this topic. It was Sittig. He's the one with the expertise who went, this is a bad idea to put this driveway where it is. So anyway, this council usually agrees on everything, and the only thing you've disagreed on is this. So let's do a safety study. There's no reason not to, protect the citizens. Don't have them later catching you at coffee time going, I was in an accident and, such and such, and heck, they're permanently disabled. Maybe if we'd done a safety study, we would have known. But hey, all right. I get kind of cheerful late in the evening, so hopefully you guys will think about this, look at it, and I appreciate you making time for me. I am sincerely sorry. I really thought it was an oversight, or I would have talked at the beginning.
It's quite all right. My oldest daughter gets chippy at night as well already, so I appreciate it. Let's move on to item C, which is resolution number 2026-66. This is a resolution approving the preliminary site plan for Urban Lofts, North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Wason, seconded by Leibold. Are there any other questions?
So I do not believe that this anywhere on there was on the MPO high-risk intersection map.
I don't either, and I tend to take the presumption that our engineers and specifically our MPO in their traffic studies are considering all of these elements already. So for one to be highlighted to me is nice, but that's what the MPO is there for, and that's what our engineers and our planners are here to advise us on.
But somewhere down the road, we may need to look at something for the crosswalks for the trail. But we can do that as we go along.
Don't disagree with you on that. Any other questions? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Courtney,
Nay.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-1. Item 17 is Water Supply and Treatment Improvements Division 1 ASR well number 7 conversion. And item A is resolution number 2026-67. This is a resolution awarding contract for the Water Supply and Treatment Improvements Division 1 ASR well number 7 conversion project. Could I have a motion for consideration, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Wason, seconded by Smith. To be clear, we're just awarding the contract for this. Are there any questions? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Fortney.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item B is resolution number 2026-68. This is a resolution accepting the bid and authorizing execution of the contract for water supply and treatment improvements Division 1 ASR well number 7 conversion project in North Liberty, Iowa. Could I have a motion for consideration?
So moved, Mayor.
Second. Moved by Smith, seconded by Leibold. Any questions?
This is the one where we awarded it to, or we're looking to award it to Win, is that correct?
That's correct.
And have we used them before?
We have not, although Greg Metternich. Thank you. Sorry, we have not used them before, but we've talked to three other individuals on 4 different projects, all who have had very positive things to say about them.
That's what I was going to ask. Thank you.
Good question. Any others? Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Fortney,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Wason.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Item 18 is the Eide Bailey Agreement. This is resolution number 2026-69. This is a resolution approving the master services agreement for tax consulting regarding energy incentives at the Hy-Vee Center between the City of North Liberty and Eide Bailey LLP. Could I have a motion for consideration first, please?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Leibold, seconded by Fortney. Ryan, would you mind providing an overview for the good of the audience?
Sure. We installed geothermal at the Hy-Vee Center, and as a result, we are entitled to some federal funding. And so we're asking the council to approve this agreement. You said Eide Bailey? I was calling it Edie Bailey.
Eide Bailey.
Eide Bailey, okay. Thanks for the correction.
Problem.
Has expertise in this area. They've worked with Shive before on these projects, so we're hoping to maximize our return from the federal government by using this company.
We can't do it ourselves.
I suppose we could, but
I'm just kidding you.
I'm not sure we'd maximize
punchy myself. It's 8:30. You guys have any questions?
Did they guarantee?
There's never any guarantees.
Some degree of satisfaction guaranteed.
Okay.
Tracy, could we have roll call, please?
Wason,
Aye.
Leibold,
Aye.
Smith,
Aye.
Fortney.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Is there any old business? New business? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
By Leibold, seconded by Smith. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.